The Cave. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, when Grandpa was a little boy, we would go to my Grandpa Brandon's farm near Pigeon Falls, Wisconsin, where my father grew up. This was a dairy farm with mostly hills and woods for the pasture land, with 10 acres of flat land and 20 acres for hay on the side of the hill. The house and barns were on the flat portion of the farm. North of the house was a hill, which was a part of the pasture. The ground under the hill was all rock, which the county mined to supply gravel for the roads. They would use dynamite to blow off sections of the hill, which created a bluff. As the county workers carved away more rock and gravel, the edge of the bluff moved farther into the pasture land. Thus, the cow fence on top of the bluff had to be frequently set back away from the edge. After many years of gravel removal, the height of the cliff came to be 80 to 100 feet high. I remember being told of a cow that got through the fence and fell to her death. There was a grate-like machine that sorted the gravel into piles of larger rocks and smaller rocks. The county road workers came to scoop up the gravel and the rock and then haul it off to make and repair the roads, which in those days were mostly gravel. Behind the bluff and on up into the woods was the cattle lane leading to the pasture. The pasture land had briars and raspberries and blueberries. We had many a pie made from that fruit. The trees were white birch, oak, and maple, with an occasional pine. Did you know that Wisconsin used to be a state almost completely covered with trees? However, in the late 1800s, the logging was so aggressive as to nearly clear the land of its forests. Fortunately, there have been many replacement trees planted in this last 100 years. As we kept climbing up the hills through the pasture and going nearly to the north boundary of the farm, there was a small cave. It was a cave in a natural rock formation arising from the pasture land with an opening large enough for several people to get inside. It was protected from the weather sufficiently to be dry inside. I always wondered if it was used by foxes or a bear, but I never saw any, nor were there any stories floating about. I always looked in cautiously, however, just to be sure. The picture below was taken at the mouth of the cave when I was 2, and my brother Tommy was 3 years old. When my grandchildren were about the same age, I brought them here as well. See the picture on page 57.